Hey guys, thank you so much for making it along tonight, and thank you of course to the team at Fletcher Living. Always nice to come back to these things. Just like Sandy said, first home buyers are my favourite people to work with. This process is frankly terrifying, right? You're going to spend 10 times your annual income on a single transaction. It's a crazy thing to do, but it's really nice to be part of that team to demystify the process and give you guys real confidence to make these decisions. I'm going to start off talking about. Sorry, you probably want some slides. No, that one. There we go. Start off talking about, interestingly enough, for a mortgage broker, some non-financial stuff. So, hey, why should we buy a home? Yes, we can think about the money relating to that purchase, but I think really the thing that we focus on, it'd be interesting to get Brad's opinion on this, being the numbers guy. But I think your first home purchase shouldn't really be a financial investment. That's your place of security, right? That's the roof over your head. If you sell that property, you're gonna need to buy a new one. So you don't realize that money from a investment perspective until you sell and you downgrade, or you buy and sell in different markets. The real crucial thing here is, most of you guys, if you're first time buyers, you'll be renting at the moment, or you'll be living with family. This is a place of your own. This is a place that's your sanctuary. It's your security. There's no unfortunate email from the landlord that says, "Hey, look, I'm selling in 90 days. Sorry." This is something that you can make your own. If you want funky colors and crazy, interior decorations, you do what you want to do. There is nothing more, peaceful and secure than going back to your home, as I say, your sanctuary. As I said before, typically it is an asset that does appreciate in value. The property market in New Zealand, the old saying, doubles every 10 years. I absolutely am not going to comment on the fact, whether that will happen over the next 10 years. I don't even know that Brad would want to comment on that one. But, as I say, the really important thing here is this is your security. Moving on from that, timing. Timing is really critical, right? And I think linking into what I was saying before about it not necessarily being an investment, I think one of the mistakes people will make is that they want to time, the perfect time in the market to buy a property. And I think if you wait for that perfect time, you're always going to be late for it. The only reason, that we know that it was the bottom of the property market from a pricing perspective is because we look in the rearview mirror. So you're now 2-3 months late. The thing that's really important for you guys as first-time buyers is the timing right for you? Is the timing right in your lifestyle? Have you got secure income? Have you, do you have or have not got a partner? Are you buying with someone else? And is that relationship at that level where it's okay to, make this kind of commitment? Do you have children, and can you think about school zones? The timing of your, where it fits in your life is actually far more important than, timing the market, so to speak. There's always comments around interest rates and property values, and I think there's a whole lot of data that you can find, and we can really overcomplicate these things. I think the thing that's important to note, and Brad certainly touched on this before, as interest rates go down, property prices inevitably go up. So at the moment, we're at a really good period of time where interest rates have fallen a long way. 1% roughly in fixed rates over the last 6 months. That's a massive amount of, massive lowering in your cost of borrowing over a very short period of time. Now, at the same time, we've seen property values be relatively flat. So arguably, it's a bit of a sweet spot where property prices haven't really gone up, and actually your lending is becoming more affordable. So could be the right time financially, but as I say, the emphasis definitely should be on you guys. Now, the key thing for me is around how we prepare you to buy that home. My rule of thumb is when I get the question, hey, when's the ideal time for someone to come and talk to you? If you're interested in buying, now is the right time, because it's only when we sit down and we have that conversation, we assess the lay of the land and where things are now. Now might be the right time, or now actually you may not be ready. But we can actually give you some facts and some figures, give you a plan, give you a budget, give you some real repayment figures. It's one thing to go to a bank or even go to a broker and go, hey, look, can I qualify for $1 million in borrowing? And the answer might be yes, the answer might be no. That is not the important thing at all. The important thing from my perspective is, do you want to pay for, and can you afford in your ongoing budget $1 million in borrowing? Those are two very different conversations, and some good hard facts and figures of what you need to help empower you to do that. Obviously, when you're talking about some of your numbers, some of your ongoing budget, we're talking interest rates, we're talking council rates, we're talking insurances. Home insurance is a requirement, so having an understanding of what it may cost, and as I say, importantly, does it fit in your ongoing budget? Knowing your numbers is a really critical thing, across all areas of buying, right? What kind of deposit do you need? The typical buyer needs 20%. Not for you guys, you're all first home buyers, so you immediately qualify for different set of rules. And if you don't, sit down with the right, qualified expert in that area, you're not going to get the right information around what you need to have for your unique set of circumstances around how you buy. Typically first home buyers can buy with 10%. You're buying a new build, blanket rule, you can buy with 10%. There's some amazing government-backed schemes through Kāinga Ora. You can buy sometimes with 5%. So there is a whole range of options here. And the really important thing, as I said before, just come in, have a chat to us, let us kind of, give you some clarity on a few of these things. In terms of what the bank may be looking for, we went through a period of time a couple of years ago where we had a piece of legislation came in. It was called the Triple CFA. I won't give you the boring kind of stuff behind it, but essentially it was a really excessively detailed dive into your household spending. How much are you spending on takeaway coffees and your Netflix subscriptions and your gym and your everything else? Thankfully, a lot of that legislation has relaxed significantly over the last little while, and there's a really firm kind of difference in assessment between discretionary and non-discretionary spending. So your non-discretionary spending is things like groceries, utilities, transport, the essentials to live and get to work and that kind of good stuff. All the discretionary stuff, we just ignore from an assessment perspective. Really important to consider from your ongoing budget. But in terms of your qualification for borrowing, which is a really critical thing for a lot of you guys, we're in a much better landscape from the bank's perspective. And then that last point on the screen links into what I was saying before around your budget. So my favorite exercise that I like to do with first-time buyers, and yes, I'm a nerd, so numbers are quite interesting to me, is I like to do basically a real-world scenario. Hey, look, what's your budget going to look like? How much do you think you can qualify in terms of borrowing? How much does this actually cost you? We'll look at some of the interest rates you'd be entitled for, and if you were to borrow that money right now, let's give you a budget to work with. We'll add in a cost for council rates, home insurance, a little bit around risk insurance as well. I'm not an insurance broker, but I always encourage people to at least explore their options around loss of income, life, and things like that. And so we'll give you this budget that you've got to work with that says, hey, this lending is going to cost you, making up numbers here, of course, but let's say $1,500 a week. Now, if your household is paying, say, $700 a week in rent, where's the $800 coming from? So the scenario is simply that. Make this borrowing real for you before you buy your home. So are you saving enough money already? Is there some debts that you're going to pay off and you can put that money into your first home? Can you readjust your spending and prove to yourself, most importantly, that you can actually put away an extra $800 a week? And if you can't, then hey, that's a really good opportunity to reassess your budget and make sure that it is ongoing and sustainable. Now, who do you need help from? Sandy alluded before around some really critical people to have in your team. Obviously, there's me, your mortgage broker. And look, there is a whole lot of options in the market. You can go bank direct. There's a whole suite of options. Of course, I'm absolutely biased, and I'm going to encourage you all to go to a broker. And really, the critical thing is whether you go to Squirrel or you go to someone else, you go to someone who's genuinely independent. A broker is going to have the whole suite of lending options available to you across the whole market. We should have a good in-depth understanding of what every bank will offer you. And if you can't get that independence, you're talking to the wrong person. The other people that are going to be really important from you, obviously a lawyer, absolutely critical, significant transaction. There's a whole load of legal documentation, a whole lot of jargon that you wouldn't have seen before. You need someone to help clarify that process for you. And there's some important logistics that the lawyer will take care of. On top of that, a building inspector is really critical. Everyone's got an uncle who's a builder and, will look after you. If you trust that person, that's fine, but you need to know that you're about to spend, as I said before, 10 times your annual income And is your uncle's word enough to give you the confidence to go ahead and to do that? For the sake of, what's often $600, $700, $800, depending on the report that you need, that is once again, a genuine independent person who can give you some real hard facts around what it is that you're buying, all built around, giving you the confidence to go ahead. There's also buyer's agents. Real estate agents, I wouldn't necessarily say are on your side. They tend to be on the side of the seller. And so a buyer's agent, once again, is someone who will work for you. Accountants, registered valuers, there's a whole team of people. I think to make it really easy, as Sandy said before, the critical people you engage first is your lawyer and your mortgage broker. From there, once you've got a bit of a plan in place on how you're proceeding, that's when you can start to get a few more critical people involved. Last but not least, so when we get ourselves right back to funding, there is some really, some amazing options out there to help first home buyers, to help people get on the market. I alluded to before some government-backed schemes. So the first home loan, there's some income requirements, there is some employment requirements, but as long as you meet them, it's a way that you can buy a home with 5% deposit. So no longer are you needing to wait to build 20% or even 10%, can be a lot of money to get. As long as you meet, as I say, those particular requirements, you might be able to get on the ladder earlier. Other low deposit options, as I said before, new builds typically meet different criteria that allows you to buy with lower deposit. And there is particular banks that have slightly different schemes as well. At Squirrel, we have a pretty unique funding option, which is called Launchpad. Not necessarily appropriate for everybody, but it's kind of our play on the first home loan scheme. It's the first home loan scheme without the same restrictions. Doesn't necessarily fit into main bank policy, but hey, look, it's an option that is there and has helped a lot of people get onto the market earlier than they originally anticipated. And then, of course, buying new builds, as I said before. It's a really it's a great way of getting yourself in the market with a little bit of security. Everyone likes the idea of, buying a do-up. And as a first home buyer, it's actually really difficult to do. You put typically all of your wealth into your deposit. You go to the bank and say, hey, I want to buy this property. And the bank goes, I don't really like the look at this. There's, this urgent maintenance that's required. And therefore I want to get some quotes. I need to know how you're going to fund it. It's a much more complex way to do it. Whereas you buy yourself a new build, you walk in, you make stuff at home, and it's very simple. Makes the decision very easy for the banks to say yes to when they know that you're buying something that doesn't require additional work. Cool. Look, there's a whole lot more things that we can discuss, but I won't chew your ear off for too long. I think the best thing you can do is get yourself prepared and get yourself informed. I think buying a first home is it feels like such a massive process that all you really want to do is sit down, find yourself a trusted expert, and actually start to educate yourself on some of the basics. As Sandy said before, there's so many options around. Find someone, meet them, get to know them. If you don't get the right feel, if you don't feel like you're building a relationship with that person and developing some trust, move on to someone else, because there is a whole lot of people out there who can support you, and it's really important you align yourself with someone who does actually empower that trust and confidence. That's enough for me. I'll be hanging around later on if anyone's got any questions. And hey, thank you so much.